So happy to be here today in March for the March Fire Entrepreneurs interview. I'm with Tim Holubik. He's a firefighter on Engine 88, and he is a financial investment executive.
Investment executive
with Megent Financial.
Yes.
So Tim, man, first to just start off, we've known each other for a while, but a lot of the people out there probably don't. So maybe you could start with growing up in the neighborhood and what the South Side kind of meant to you as a kid growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the West Beverley, Morgan Park neighborhood, went to St. Cajetan on 112th and Campbell. Obviously known you for a long time, used to play baseball together in Little League at Kennedy Park. So I grew up on 109th and between Maplewood and Campbell. Later in my life, lived there my whole life. Later in my life, after I graduated from college, moved over by Kennedy Park, 114th and Tallman, and then a few months ago we moved over here to the West Beverly area, 100th and Fairfield. So yeah, grew up here my whole life. My dad was a firefighter. I have two older sisters. Love the neighborhood, love the neighbors in general. I think one thing about this neighborhood is that your neighbors turn into your best friends, essentially. I've seen it with my parents. A lot of people always ask them, my dad's retired, my mom's retired, when are you gonna move to Florida? When are you gonna move to Arizona? My dad always says the same thing. He says, I can't find neighbors there like I have here. Yeah. My neighbors are my best friends. So I think that's the main thing in this neighborhood. Obviously, being with a good group of people, police officers, firefighter, teachers, union members, blue collar, tight, and I don't see myself ever leaving. So
yeah, you were a Rice guy, right?
Yeah, Brother Rice, St. Cajetan, Brother Rice. I went to St. Ambrose in Davenport, Iowa. I got a double major in business management and marketing there, and a minor in finance, and I kind of moved on from there onto the fire department. So
cool. So let's get into that. Like, you grew up with a fire family too. My dad was on the job, yours as well. Was it something when you were a kid you knew right away that's what you wanted to be, or is it something that kind of just fell into place for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I grew up going to the firehouse all the time. I don't even know if this was allowed anymore, but I used to sleep over at the firehouse all the time, going all the rounds with my dad. My dad and his two brothers all three of them were firemen. My dad retired as an engineer. My Uncle Dave retired as a lieutenant. My Uncle John retired as a battalion chief.
Wow.
So it's something I always wanted to do, myself and all my cousins. The problem is that a lot of us know, and a lot of people know from the neighborhood who tried applying, you take the test, you kind of get assigned a lottery number.
Right.
So it's not something you could really bank on. I didn't have a ton of interest in being a firefighter somewhere else outside of the city of Chicago. I did go take the test. I got lucky, scored a high number, was in the second class off the new list in 2016. Can't get luckier than that. And like I said, at the time I was in a sales job. I was working in technology sales for about 2 years downtown. Got called for the fire department at 23, got into the academy, and then the rest is history.
So going into college, you were at Ambrose and you majored in,
I had a double major in business management, marketing, and then a minor in finance. Okay. So they all kind of overlap with each other.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And then you went into more of like a corporate sales job?
Correct, yeah. I got into sales. I got lucky. I had somebody reach out to me while I was still in college for a job that summer. So I graduated from college in May, started my corporate job with CDW at the time in June. So loved it there, had a good time, was, pretty good at it. But like I said, if the fire department ever called, I knew that was my calling and that's where I was going to go.
As an opportunity you weren't going to pass up.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
So I understand too that like you're really into, we talked about the neighborhood a little bit, but you're really still involved in the neighborhood outside of what you do, with your career. You're actually like a youth basketball coach, correct?
Yeah. So I've actually been coaching for 10 or 11 years now.
Wow.
I started pretty shortly right out of college with my buddy who is a St. John Fisher guy. We started right when we graduated from college. St. John Fisher at the time needed a coach to coach their fourth graders. So
sure.
Small kids. My buddy, said, hey, I'd like someone to come help me. Started coaching in fourth grade there. We did pretty well. We loved it. The team was great. We actually followed that same team. I think we coached another year in fourth grade, and then we ended up following that same team up all the way from fourth grade to eighth grade when they graduated. So we went from fourth and fifth, and we started coaching the A teams at St. John Fisher for sixth, seventh, and eighth. Our kids graduated from there that we were with for that long, and I got recruited over to my alma mater, St. Cajetan. Couldn't pass that up, so I'm actually doing the girls and the boys from 6th grade on now. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. So I love it. Was never a basketball player. I played in grammar school. I was super small, as you can remember. But I loved it. It was my favorite sport. Kind of became a basketball nerd. Right now is my favorite time of the year, March Madness. I could sit here for hours and hours and just watch every single game. Now I'm kind of into it, and I'm doing it probably more than half the year. So.
Yeah, so I mean, like for me growing up playing sports, my coaches were some of the most influential people in my life, and going all the way back to grammar school. You remember everyone.
Yeah.
Remember their personalities, their tics, lessons they may have taught you along the way. So while we're on the subject, like what are the values that you're really trying to instill in the kids that you're teaching how to play basketball?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I think this is a reason why a lot of the parents now like that there's a non-parent. I don't have a kid there myself, a non-parent coaching, right? I don't have any skin in the game. I don't play favorites. It's just mostly about hard work and dedication. Who's going to show up to practice, who's not going to goof off the whole time,
right.
Who's actually going to take it seriously, and, who actually wants to get better. And it stems further than just sports, right? I tell the kids all the time, say, hey, later on in life, you're going to go through some hard stuff. You're going to go through some, for lack of it, losing streaks, right, in life, just like we do in basketball. It's how you recover, how you keep moving forward, and it's the hard work and dedication that you put in that's really going to prepare you beyond grammar school basketball, right? Because a lot of these kids don't go on, I had some good players who went on and played at Brother Rice, Marist, Mount Carmel, St. Rita. And I don't know, they're probably not going to go anywhere after that. It's just the bottom line. But like I said, I think sports are the main reason why a lot of people are successful in business or whatever they decide to go into in life, because of the habits that are instilled into them at a younger age. So that's kind of, the way I try to steer them.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's get back, so you were out of college, you were doing a sales job. I have kind of a similar background there. I obviously went the real estate route. You went the kind of investments route.
Yeah.
So how'd you get started in that? How'd you make the transition from the sales job to the investment area? And were you already on the fire department when you made that decision, or?
Yeah, correct.
How did that line
as
up?
you know, when we're on the fire department, we go into the academy. It's a 6-month process, right?
Correct, yeah.
I've always been into finance in general, stocks, bonds, anything, just very interested in it for myself, personal finance especially. So when we were in the academy, obviously you're on probation, right? And then, out of the academy, you're still on probation. So you're not really supposed to be doing anything while you're on probation. But what I saw is when I was in the academy, there was a need. There was a need for personal finance because we have all this different stuff being thrown at us,
Sure.
right? We have all of our training, all of our EMT training, all of our fire training. But then at the same time, there's a ton of people telling us a ton of different things. We have guys coming in, hey, you need to buy this life insurance. Hey, you need to contribute to your 457 deferred comp plans. Hey, you have this pension, right? You hear that all the time. Hey, you're super lucky you're getting this pension. But it seems like nobody really knows what that pension is, right? So, hey, buy this life insurance, contribute to your deferred comp, you have a pension, you're gonna be okay, right? And a lot of people are just, okay, they sign up.
It sounds good. And
it sounds good at the time, and then they just kind of don't worry about it for 30 years, right? So they don't have anybody explaining to them, all right, well, in this life insurance policy that you just purchased, like this is what it's about. These are the reason why you're purchasing this, right? In your deferred comp, you have specific investments, right? Nobody really tells you what investments to go into.
Right.
You just kind of throw it in and figure it out.
Right.
And then, hey, this is your pension. Okay, but what does that pension consist of? What am I actually going to be receiving in the end? So I kind of saw that there was a need, and I was into it. I went to school for it. I kind of had all my personal stuff taken care of. So shortly after I graduated the academy and then was off probation, I started studying, right? So there's several exams that you need to become a financial advisor, right? So I went out, I got my Series 6, I got my Series 63, I got my Series 7, I got my Series 65, I got my life and health exams. I went and kind of knocked them all out within, a year period, just to make sure I had everything covered. Then shortly after that, I went and actually started doing these things on my own. So mostly a small book of business of police officers and firefighters that I knew.
Sure.
Right. I wasn't planning on growing this thing to, the point of, hey, I'm going to make a ton of money off of this. It was, hey, guys have questions. I'm going to go out and I'm going to help them get those questions, help them open up Roth IRAs, help them open up college accounts. If they need life insurance, I could help them with that. So I just kind of started small that way. And now it's a little different in what I'm doing now. So that kind of grew into something bigger. So
Right. So you were kind of doing your own little business on the side, and then, as I understand it, your basketball coaching, volunteering, actually kind of led you on your path to where you are now at Megent. So tell me that story and how did that
so it's
work
kind of a
out?
funny story. One of our biggest rivals when I coached at St. John Fisher was St. Michael's in Orland Park. So we were always playing them. We were battling with them. We were two of the best teams, always going at it. Turns out that one of the coaches that I coached against in 4th and 5th grade at St. Mike's, we were just talking before a game one day, right on the sidelines. And, super polite, asked me what I did for a living. I told him, I said, hey, I'm a Chicago firefighter, but I also, run a small financial advising business on the side for myself, helping police officers and firefighters. He kind of saw his eyes light up at that point, handed me his card and said, you're going to want to give me a call.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm kind of like, okay. And that was really the gist of the conversation. I didn't get too far into it. Sure enough, I ended up giving him a call that next week. He brought me in. He explained to me exactly what Megent Financial did, right? He's part owner of it, and it was the perfect fit from the start. And obviously we could get into exactly what we do, but I knew right there it's where I belonged because of the way he explained to me what they did, and ever since then it's history. So
Cool. So you just kind of happened to run into him. One of those things where your decision to help coach basketball actually kind of is one of those things in life where it led you to connecting with somebody that was changing your life and changing the life of a lot of other people too.
Yeah, and I was doing it for a good 4 or 5 years by myself. Really not generating a bunch of income for myself. I was basically doing it just to help people out.
Yeah.
It was a little side thing for me, something different. A lot of firefighters go out and get jobs on the side, right? Because, we're working a certain amount of days a year, 24 on, 48 off. It seems like a good majority of them, which there's nothing wrong if it's their passion. They go out, they're contractors, plumbers, electricians, just swinging a hammer, right? And they're good at it. I wasn't very good at that growing up. I wasn't a very handy guy. So I figured, hey, let's use my skills, my college degree, and my interest to go do this on my own. So like I said, I did it for about 4 or 5 years on my own. Nothing crazy, a couple days a week. And then, I found Megent and kind of took off on me from there. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So Tim, you were working on your own kind of as a financial advisor, running like a little bit of a small business on the side, and then you found Megent through your basketball connections. So how did Megent kind of help you to maximize your ability to help people and grow your business as a kind of a self-starter and a small business owner?
Yeah, right. So when I first started, so all financial advisors, we got to work under somebody, right? Under a broker dealer.
Yeah, same for us.
Exactly.
Realtors.
So I did work for a company, just was able to get licensed through them, and then they kind of handled my back office stuff. But being so small and just starting out in the business, it was essentially just working out of my house, out of my room, processing my own paperwork, basically doing everything. So there wasn't a ton of resources available to me. It was just kind of, hey, take your exams, learn about it, study it, go out on your own.
Yeah.
And that's what I was used to, and that was fine. All right. It was a good company, and they gave me the tools that I needed to go out and get started. So like I said, when I found Megent, what made it super interesting to me is that although Megent is a full financial services firm, we're unique in the way we work and the people we work with, because we only work with labor unions.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we work with labor unions and their members. So how we do that is through several different avenues. We hold seminars for all these different labor unions. What we do at these seminars, we have apprentice seminars, we have what we call our young people seminars, where people who are midway through their career, and then we have our retirement seminars, where people are a couple years out. And what we do at these seminars is, obviously for the younger groups, we help them with financial literacy, but our main goal in all of these seminars, in meeting with the members of these unions, is explaining their benefits.
Sure.
So we are part of what is called the MCL. It's the Midwest Coalition of Labor. So essentially it's a group of labor unions throughout the Midwest that kind of came together and started this coalition to provide more benefits to their members as a whole. Some of the unions that we work with, Local 150, 399, 134, the sheet metal workers, the sprinkler fitters, the list goes on and on.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually help north of 50 something unions at this point. And we provide all their members with the education on their benefits and how to supplement those benefits throughout their career and into retirement.
No, I was going to say, it just sounds like you fell into kind of the perfect vehicle for you.
Right.
Being a firefighter, that is, a labor job.
Yep.
And, you were already kind of doing the financial services aspect on the side. So it was like you're kind of able to merge both of your passions, and still be able to help, and bring your experience with firefighting over to the side job. So how has being a firefighter helped you to relate with your customers, to, help these families out? What experiences on the job have given you help with the other career?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's being a fireman. It's just kind of growing up in this neighborhood, right? Like I mentioned, it's a blue collar neighborhood, growing up with a father who was a fireman, family who was blue collar. So these are kind of my people.
Yeah.
Right. And I jumped at this opportunity, as I mentioned, when I met with Ron Whittingham, part owner of Megent. And he told me what they did. I was like, well, this is why I started doing this.
Yeah.
Right. I started doing this to help people, blue collar people, like myself, like my family, understand their benefits and, how to supplement them accordingly. So yeah, it like I said, it just turned into the perfect fit. And like I said, with our process and what we do, we don't pay these unions. They don't pay us to run these seminars, to meet with their members. It's all a free benefit provided to the members from us through their unions. Okay. So we have these seminars, we give them, and we kind of give a broad spectrum, right? We say, hey, our average member, this is what our average member receives from this pension. This is what our average member receives from Social Security. This is what our average member has in their annuity or 401k or 457 plan. Then after these seminars, we actually go out and meet with these members individually. So the group of advisors that we have, we sit down with them at their kitchen tables, at Starbucks, in the office, whatever works best for them. We sit down with them and their spouse, and we actually now personalize it, where these seminars were more of a broad explanation. Yeah. Now we can actually sit there and personalize it for the member and look at their personal benefits and what they're going to be receiving in retirement. How we make our money, and obviously that's the question that always, so if you're doing all this for free, right? If you're providing these free benefits, how we make our money is that when we meet with these members, whether they are early in their career, later in their career, or they're already retired, we help supplement them with the traditional financial product route, right? So for example, if our younger member comes to them, hey, we explain to them, help them understand exactly what their benefits are, what they're going to be receiving in retirement. We do those calculations. We take a look at all of their outside investments. We take a look at the whole picture. And then we kind of come up with a plan. And if they need a 529 college plan or a Roth IRA or a life insurance plan, right, we can help them do all that. So it's kind of a one-stop shop, okay, for, hey, here's what your benefits are. Maybe they don't need anything. Maybe they're set, right?
Yeah.
And there's no obligation for our clients to have to use a product through us or invest their money through us, right?
I think that's like a really great approach too, because one of the things that kind of you realize the older you get is like the total lack of financial literacy that you get as a student, growing up. Like obviously in college you kind of double majored in that, so you were at a better footing than most when you came out of college. But for me, I majored in political science. I was in honors classes in high schools, but like outside of one accounting class I took at Rita, like that was about it as far as any type of like financial literacy or just thinking ahead and learning how to plan and budget and all those things that are important to be like a high functioning adult. So I think that's actually like a really cool approach that you guys actually go out and like not advocate but educate groups of people on kind of the big picture, and then allow people, who are interested to come and meet with you so you can drill down more into it with them, and another part of that too that I think is a symptom of the lack of education is that, people don't realize when you're in an industry like, even for me as a realtor, when you're doing a service-based entrepreneurial endeavor, like a lot of the value we provide is free. It's not, we're trying to put something out there that actually helps people. And then in the long term, down the line, obviously we want to make money because we're working.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of value that goes into, the services as a career. And I think that you guys are doing like a really cool job of setting your business up that way.
Yeah. And like I said, for us, it is all about education.
Yeah.
Right. We want these union members to understand the benefits that are provided to them. And like I said, it's really unique because a lot of people don't know this. Obviously, back in the day, pensions were huge, right?
Right.
Our grandparents had pensions. As the pension system kind of dwindled and it went to more of a 401k based system, I believe less than 5% of Americans now have these pensions available to them. So we are unique because we're experts in pensions, right? Everybody's situation is different. But a lot of times when members are receiving these pensions, they have to plan a different way than somebody else who just has, a 401k.
Right.
So they're going to be receiving a defined benefit plan, right? And that's money that is going to be going to them monthly in retirement.
Well, and I remember in the private sector, that was one of the things you look at when you're applying for a job is what does the 401k plan look like? What are the retirement benefits, kind of look like? And now people move around the job so much, you're constantly rolling things over. But, for those of us who do have or fall under that 5%, we're, hopefully we're relying on the pension, to carry us through retirement like it did for our fathers and, other family members. Growing up in a blue-collar background, we kind of need to learn how to adapt to that in the modern age because, it's different than it was, 20, 40 years ago.
Exactly.
And I think that's actually really cool that you guys kind of saw that as a need because it is a need. And going back to what you said about the academy, I remember these guys talking to me and I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. How much is that a month? How much? Okay, yeah, you're signing things and, no, I'm not saying anybody meant anything disingenuous, but you don't understand it because, in the 10 minutes somebody's talking to you at your lunch break in the academy, when you're going on 2 hours of sleep, you're not really like learning the ins and outs of everything, that goes into it.
And that's kind of why these unions trust us now, right? And why we've gotten into so many unions on helping educate their members because, we're an assistance to them. We're an assistance to their fund office, right? So, a lot of times the fund offices, they don't have a lot of people working in them and, they need help and they can't always give all of the advice needed because they're not financial professionals, right? So we actually help all these members and help put everything together for them, from their benefits to their outside investments, help put them together, put a plan together and move forward from there. So, like I said, it's perfect. It's a great company. What we do is very personal for me, and I take it very seriously, and just like the rest of the advisors do. And, we built this reputation, and now it's our job to keep the reputation in good standing and continue to do the right thing, for these members.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you one of the really good skills of a real leader is learning, where you need to delegate some responsibilities. And I think when you have a track record of the amount of unions that have given you their trust with possibly the most important part of, looking out for their members' future, I think that speaks a lot to the work that you guys have done, without even, having to sell anything specifically, just because, trust is hard to come by, especially with things as important as that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, that's our jobs. Number one goal is to educate the membership on what's offered to them. Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, I'd also like to kind of hear just on a personal level, how is it for you balancing, being a full-time firefighter and then also having a real, workload or responsibility on your shoulders with, being an investment analyst or however you want to say it, because I know those two things can both probably be pretty stressful.
Yeah, no. So it's a lot. Yeah, I'm lucky because, the goal as a young person when you graduate from college and you go out into the real world is you want to find something that you love doing, right? So I have two jobs that I love doing. I have the fire department and then I have Megent Financial, both things that I'm very passionate about, and I love going to work every day. So although my schedule, is crazy, and there's a lot of things that need to get done on my off days, from the firehouse, I enjoy doing it. So I know that that's the reason why I'm able to put in the work that I do, because it's something that I love to do. And right now, I don't have kids. I'm newly married. So the way that I look at things is, I'm going to work.
Well, and you also are volunteering your time coaching
right.
too.
So three things that I love, right? So, I'm going to work as hard as I can while I'm young, so that, when I do get into my 40s and get into my 50s, I am comfortable and I'm kind of able to go out and do what I want. So that's what my goal is. So it's just finding a way to balance things, staying organized, scheduling correctly, and then most importantly, servicing your clients.
Right.
When I'm at the firehouse, I'm at the firehouse. I'm a fireman, right? I don't focus on anything else. That's my job at that time. So I have to be ready at all times when I'm there. When I'm not at the firehouse, I focus on this job. And it's my job to make sure that my clients, the members of these unions, are getting the best service possible. So again, that's what I focus on, and there's a lot that goes into it, but wouldn't have it any other way. So love doing what I do. So
do you have any specific advice as far as time management things that you do well that kind of have helped you balance things, or was it kind of everything, I don't know, have you ever felt overwhelmed and then
Absolutely. I think everybody feels overwhelmed, especially when something takes off on you the way it does unexpectedly. Obviously technology helps. I don't know what I would do without my phone calendar, my notes app, and my computer Outlook calendar. But the main thing that I've learned to do is every night before I go to bed, I write down everything I have to do for the next day.
I actually read that in, I think it was maybe Atomic Habits or one of them, that's a huge thing. And it's something I've been trying to do. Usually I kind of lazy out and do the mental checklist, but I think writing things out is actually something that people have totally gotten away from, but it really kind of helps.
It kind of relieves focus some of the anxiety for the next morning, because a lot of times when I don't do that, don't get me wrong, I do forget.
Oh, nobody's
right. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh shoot, I have to do this, and this. When I write things down the night before, my wife always asks me, last night we were watching a TV show and I had to pad and paper, and she kind of looked at me and said, "Are you taking notes?" Like on the show or whatever we were watching. And I said, "No, before I forget, I have all these things in my head. So before I forget them for the next day and I go to bed, I know that they're written down on my kitchen counter. So when I wake up, hey, this is the list of the most important things that I need to get done tomorrow."
Yeah.
I do the same thing at the firehouse, right? When I'm, in the bunk room getting ready for bed, end of the night, long day, I just make sure that I have everything written out for that next day, so I'm ready to go when I wake up.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that like taking the metaphorical, things I got to do this, I got to do that, and then you have different emotions and feelings about the different tasks that you have to do. But like when you write them down, it makes them tangible things. And I think that like being able to cross stuff off actually is like a really good exercise for your own well-being. At least for me, it always, there's a huge level of satisfaction when I got a list and I get to go through and cross one off after the other and feel like you're making progress versus you're trying to juggle.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's been a huge help to me, especially when your schedule starts getting out of control. You have to start getting organized. So, that's the main thing that you have to focus on, because again, you have an obligation to provide the best service for whatever service you're in for your clients. And when things start getting away from you and things start getting hectic and there's a million things going on in your head, that's where you kind of drop the ball.
Well, think about this too. Like what's one of the first things you hear in the academy about yourself, right? Your reputation is everything on this job. I mean, and it's true.
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail, and your reputation is going to follow you everywhere you go.
Yep.
And I know for me, I think that's something that should really be incorporated into everybody's personal life, and then also whatever business endeavors they're into. I think going that extra mile, staying on top of things, doing what you say you're going to do. Those little things are what really kind of build you up in the long term. Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
No, I mean, like I said, that's kind of our entire business model, right? At Megent is we built up this reputation and the trust of these union leaders who trust us with all of their members.
Yeah.
It didn't happen right away. I know people have been working at Megent a long time, much longer than I have, and they built this up since the mid-90s. And now we are where we are today because of the hard work and the reputation that they have with these unions now.
Right.
So, and now it's paying off for all of us in the long runs. And these, they trust us.
Right. Yeah. And again, trust comes from doing what you say you're going to do.
Right.
Let me ask you this. Like, I know that a lot of what you guys do is driven by formal relationships you have with the unions down to their members. But like, what about like on an individual basis if somebody has questions about something? Or,
absolutely. So
are they able to reach out to you as well? Or
yeah, 100%. So, we do, like I said, I've said it a lot of times, we pride ourselves on helping blue collar individuals. We help their family members, but if you're not in the union, right, and you're, in a corporate job or you're in another type of job, I'm willing to help anybody. We're all willing to help anybody. We are a full financial services firm. We don't limit our clientele to just that, but that's really what we focus on. But that doesn't mean we don't know everything else about.
Right. So that's more like your strategy and your culture, but it isn't a limiter on what you can do.
If somebody needs help, we're there to help them.
Cool.
Regardless.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, the other part of all this is like you are kind of a business owner, right? You're kind of managing your own, book of clients, in the way that like even a sales professional, you may work for a bigger company, but you're, when you're taking home what you put in, I feel like you're kind of working for yourself regardless of what structure you fall under.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of how the business model is too, right? So I work under Megent's umbrella, right? And they give me all the resources possible. They make it as easy as possible for me. It's the best place to work, in my opinion. But I do have my own LLC. It's actually called Responders Financial LLC.
Oh, cool.
I actually opened that up a while ago because my original plan was, hey, I'm going to help first responders with their finances. So I opened up my own LLC. So I actually work, although I'm under Megent's umbrella, I do have my own LLC, Responders Financial LLC, which I technically work for myself under.
Cool. Yeah, I guess my question would be like from an entrepreneurial mindset, how do you look at your business that way? Like, I kind of understand now like what you do in your business, but like how about the time you spend on your business? Like what's the things that you look to as far as like trying to grow what you have, grow your customers, reach out. I saw recently like you have been to the IAFF and gave a speech there. Like, are you trying to make your own inroads as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually down in Springfield. It's the AFFI, Associated Firefighters of Illinois. I was lucky enough to go in front of a ton of locals there and speak about what we do at Megent, what we do with all these other labor unions. And, it helps that I'm a fireman as well. So, I told them, hey, I'm a fireman. You guys are firemen. I'm trying to look out what's best for the members. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm always looking for opportunities. I have gone to a bunch of smaller suburban departments, union meetings, spoke in front of them so I could help out their members. A lot has come of that. So I'm constantly looking for new ways to help Megent grow.
Yeah.
Right. And Megent's like a big family, right? So when one of us does well, we all do well. But we all have the same end goal in mind. So each one of us, each one of the advisors at Megent is trying to grow the business for all of us.
Right.
And help as many people as possible. And if that means, advisors have to go out individually and meet people, meet at seminars, do the legwork, that's what we do. So yeah, I do a lot of that. I've even gotten to the point where I've been helping different companies out. For example, we have several companies that we run their 401k plans, smaller 401k plans. We have a 401k guy out of the office, so he's helping out those people. So we're willing to help out anybody. There's a lot of legwork that goes into it. But again, I can't stress enough that you have to go out, find something that you love to do. And when you find something you love to do, like I love to do both of my jobs, it's really not work. Right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of cliche, right? People say that all the time, but it's true. When you get busy and you're putting in the work, you don't mind it because you love doing it.
Right.
So it's just staying consistent, staying resilient. I did this for 4 or 5 years, barely made any money on it. I was just kind of doing it to help out first responders, people like myself. I stayed at it. And then I got lucky, got into Megent, and blew up from there.
And I think it's hard, it's really natural to fall into being like maybe a little demoralized, or you feel like you're working for nothing, and you're like, man, I picked up a second job and I'm making less money because you're probably putting more in than you're getting out of it
100%.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I dealt with that for a few years.
And with us too, like, we have our career on the fire department, and I think the motivation factor to really build something takes a lot of dedication and discipline and consistency more than anything else. So, hats off to you for sticking with it. I know you
appreciate that.
You're doing a great job now. And, the other part too is I think you probably found like the right team, right?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I think teams really help everybody. I mean, anybody who's successful, you never hear anybody say, I did it all on my own. Everybody always, who really makes it to that top echelon is like, hey, it's the people around me that, that got me there.
Bottom line is I put the work in for about 4 or 5 years on my own and built up the knowledge that I needed.
Right.
But without Megent, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I essentially got lucky, right? So I put in the work by myself. I coached basketball, volunteered my time because it's something I love to do. From doing that, I made a connection. That connection reached out to me.
Yeah.
Met with him, and then from there, it's history.
Well, I think there's a huge lesson in that too. Like, you're somebody who, sometimes, we're on very limited sleep the next day. You're tired, it's not a great feeling. And you were still doing that on the fire department. Then you were working in your financial, services capacity. But you also still took the time out of your day to go and coach youth basketball, even though you don't even have kids of your own yet. And if you look at that decision to volunteer your time and do something positive, that's what ultimately ended up leading you to Megent, which has been like the really the answer that you kind of were looking for and didn't know that you needed.
Right.
100%. So I think
100%.
there's a lesson in that too. Like if you're doing something positive with your time and you're passionate about it, like you might not think that it's going to directly impact you in a personal or financial way, but sometimes these things, we're not just three different people, you're one person, and those things all kind of work together.
Right.
I think
and that life's strange, right? You do these little things throughout your life, especially things that you enjoy, and you don't think anything's going to come of it. And one day, a lot of it's luck. One day you get lucky, and all the work that you've put in leading up to that point, like you said, whether you felt defeated before, whether you felt like you wanted to quit, all the work that leads up to something greater and then changes your life. That's my story. That's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, I think it's a great example of that cliche, make your own luck, right?
Yep.
You consistently do the right thing, something falls into place eventually, and maybe the timeline isn't the same as everybody. If you're comparing yourself to other people, I think that's like the worst trap you can fall into.
Can't do that.
But, if you stay on your path, keep putting like one foot in front of the other, build up brick by brick, and you end up, something comes along that really changes everything. And it can be as simple as volunteer your time to coach basketball, and you run into a perfect opportunity for what you're doing already. So,
and that, like what you just said, I tell to my clients all the time, comparing yourself to somebody else, right? Because a lot of times I'll have a client come in, hey, this person has this much money in my retirement account. I only have that because I didn't do the right things. Now I feel terrible. You can't change the past. What you can start doing now is come up with a plan right now. So from now on, moving forward, we make sure that you're set up in the right position. It doesn't matter what Joe has over there, right? We have to worry about you, what situation you're in, and moving forward, we have to do the right things to set yourself up for success in retirement, and you could live a great life in retirement. So that's a big thing. Just wanted to, go off that on what you said. So.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. So kind of wrap up here, like, do you have any advice you would give to like a young person who, so funny enough, on the side tangent, when I was in sales, I kind of started putting my foot down the path of possibly being like financial advisor, financial services. And I was always just really passionate about real estate. So I never had like the real pull into it. But, ultimately I ended up being on the fire department doing real estate, which is kind of what I always wanted to do. Yeah. And you kind of had a similar story like that. But would you have advice for like younger people that are, even if it's not specific to your industry, are looking at maybe going out on their own, putting their own foot forward? Do you think it's important to maybe have a corporate job at first where you can maybe get some background training, or I don't know, like what would you say is the path to being successful?
I think it is. I think just getting into anything at a young age, whether you like it or not, I don't want to tell people to go out and do something they don't love, right? But, I started working in the restaurant business at 14 years old. Worked all the way there till I graduated college, on the summers in college. So I learned so much from the restaurant business. I tell people all the time, being in the restaurant, I was a shy kid, right? Being in the restaurant business, and they put me as a busboy, they put me as a host. I had to learn to deal with people.
Yeah.
Right? And it really opened me up. And they taught me everything. The owners were great, the managers were great, they taught me everything. So that really opened me up. But putting in that work at a young age, even if I didn't want to get up on Sunday mornings for breakfast,
right?
That really taught me something. And then going into sales, now that really taught me how to deal with people, right?
Yeah.
I was making 100 cold calls a day, dealing with rejection, right? And I kept at that. I got pretty good at that. So those are two experiences. I went from the restaurant business into sales. Then I got on the fire department, right? And the academy teaches you to be tough, right? And they harden you pretty well and get you ready for the job. So all these things have led up to where I'm at now. As far as going off on your own, you do listen to a lot of these self-help people, which I'm not against it at all. But they're like, hey, take a chance, go out, quit your job, go do this. I don't think that's the right route, right? I think you're going to need an income, right? You're going to need to bring something in so you could go out on your own, whether you have a family, you have a fiance, you have a girlfriend. You have to provide for yourself and your family. But you're able to supplement that on your off time from that job, right? So it sucks sometimes, but you're working 9 to 5. The last thing you want to do is go home and start doing something else. But if you really want to go out on your own and start doing something you love, you have to do it on your off time, right? Even when it sucks. So my advice wouldn't be to go out and quit your job, start something on your own, even in the financial industry, right? It's really hard for these kids who come out of college because technically when you go into the financial industry, you have to go out and find your own clients.
Well, right? And you need people to trust you.
Exactly.
And like, what do you know at 20 years old? That, you're gonna, not that you can't be totally confident at your job, but you have to overcome that. It's an objection that people are going to have when they, meet you if you don't have any life experience, right?
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. My advice is to get as much experience as you can in different industries, different businesses, and then from there, when you make that decision, put in the work so that you're able to move on from wherever you're at.
Right.
Again, and go ahead and go off on your own. Now you've gained all this experience, and now you could actually go out and do it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, for me, when I came out of college and didn't really know like what I was going to do, and I knew I liked real estate. I had interned with my cousin's company in college, but I took a good look at myself and I said, you aren't comfortable being uncomfortable, so we should probably start with some kind of corporate sales job where you 100%. Could at least get some training and you're forced to pick up the phone and make a phone call to somebody that you don't know or you're not comfortable with. And, I'm not going to say I totally ever got over that apprehension, but eventually, it's once you have those conversations under your belt where, I always felt like it was like shaking somebody's hand over the phone.
Right.
And you get that confidence, and I feel like you're in a much better position to maybe take on, taking a bigger bite out of the apple and maybe putting a little bit more behind yourself than, you would be otherwise.
Absolutely. And I don't want to be hypocritical either here, because I didn't quit something that I was doing and go out on my own. We're lucky enough to where we got on the fire department and we only work 24 and 48 hours. So I'm not going to give somebody advice to tell them, hey, I did it, because I didn't do it, right? And I'll admit that. I did have a full-time salary, but what I do know is putting in the work pays off, because I didn't, get off the firehouse and not do anything, right? And that's fine if you do. We make a great living, and if you want to stay at home with your family, that's perfect too. A lot of people have to go and do that. I don't have a family at this time, so I was able to go out and do something at a young age based on all my past experience to hopefully set myself up moving forward. So the bottom line is you got to put in the work. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Is there anything else you'd kind of like to get out there to anybody who...
No, not really, man. I appreciate you having me. I think it's great what you're doing with this.
Thank you.
To get exposure for, a lot of the firemen who do have these side businesses. And I commend everybody on that referral list and on the website for what they do, because everybody's putting in some type of work in their own way and doing something that they love. And if they didn't love it, there would be no point of doing it on the side. Yeah. So I trust that, everybody's on there, does a great job, and, it's going to, provide a lot of help to a lot of people. So
yeah, I hope so. So Tim's information is up on fireentrepreneurs.com right now. If you have any questions, email the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, email. You could call the phone number on there. I'm pretty responsive, so any way that you need to reach out.
Awesome. And like you mentioned, other referrals on there too. We have a big swath of different careers and passions that, a lot of us take on the side. So, if you're looking for somebody, check out the website, see if there might be somebody on there who can help you. And with that, I'll let you go. Thanks again, Tim. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Tim Holubik, Investment Executive, 15321 South 94th Avenue, Suite 100, Orland Park, Illinois, 60462, 708-444-1090. Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, a broker-dealer, and a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. The views depicted on this broadcast are general in nature and are provided for informational use only. The views are not necessarily those of Cetera Advisors, LLC. They should not be considered as specific investment or tax advice. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Keep in mind that investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Investment decisions should be based on individuals' own goals, time horizon, and tolerance of risk. Consult your investment and/or tax professional regarding your unique situation.